Hello. My girlfriend looked at me and said, "Every time I look at you, I wonder why I ever chose you." I didn't argue. I just replied, "You're right." That night, I packed quietly and walked away without drama. I poured everything into my work, day after day. Months later, she called me in tears. While I sat beside my new girlfriend, watching the future I'd built finally shine without her. We were standing in our kitchen on a Tuesday night, the kind of night where nothing big is supposed to happen. She was leaning against the counter scrolling through her phone, half listening while I talked about a project at work I was excited about. At some point, I stopped mid-sentence because she sighed, loudly, dramatically. She looked up at me with that familiar expression, the one that always made me feel like I was already disappointing her. "Do you ever think about how weird it is," she said, "that every time I look at you, I wonder why I chose you?" No anger, no fight, just blunt, bored cruelty. For context, I'm 30M. She's 28F. We'd been together almost 3 years, living together for one. On paper, we were stable. In reality, I'd been slowly shrinking to fit into whatever version of me she tolerated that week. I asked her what she meant. She shrugged. "I don't know. I just feel like I settled. Like I could have done better if I waited." Then she smiled, like she'd said something insightful. That was the moment everything went quiet in my head. Not sad, not angry, just still. I nodded and said, "You're right." That caught her off guard. She laughed, a sharp little laugh. "Wait, what?" "You're right," I repeated. "You probably shouldn't have chosen me." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, don't be dramatic. I'm just being honest. You're so sensitive." There it was. The dismissal. The rewrite. Suddenly, I was the problem for reacting at all. She went back to her phone, conversation over in her mind. I stood there for another second, then went to the bedroom and lay down staring at the ceiling. That was the night I stopped trying to convince her of my worth. I didn't tell her I was done. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten to leave. I just started planning. Quietly. The next morning, she acted like nothing happened. That was always her thing. Say something cutting, let it hang in the air, then move on like it was my job to forget it. She hummed while making coffee, complained about traffic, asked if I could Venmo her for dinner she paid for last time. I did. I started noticing patterns after that night. Not because they were new, but because I'd stopped making excuses for them. The way she corrected me in front of friends. The way she joked about my job like it was a phase. The way she compared me to other guys and called it motivation. That afternoon, she texted me while I was at work. "Can you be home earlier? I don't feel like cooking." "No, please." No question mark. I replied, "Probably late tonight." She sent back a thumbs down emoji. That was it. That night, instead of rushing home, I stayed late. Not to impress anyone. Not to avoid her. I stayed because I realized something uncomfortable. When I wasn't around her, I felt lighter, more focused, more like myself. Over the next few weeks, I changed quietly. I stopped sharing ideas with her. Stopped asking for her opinion. Stopped explaining myself. She noticed, but not in the way you'd hope. "You've been really distant," she said one night, annoyed. "What? Are you mad or something?" "No," I said honestly. "Just busy." She scoffed. "Must be nice to suddenly care about work." That comment stuck with me, so I leaned into it. I started waking up earlier. Took on extra projects. Signed up for a certification I'd been putting off because she said it was pointless. I stopped going out on weeknights. Started saving money she never knew about. She complained, of course. "You're boring now. You never want to do anything. You're acting like you're better than me." I didn't argue, because every insult was confirmation. She thought I was shrinking away from her. In reality, I was building something she wasn't invited to. And the best part? She never saw it coming. About a month in, she started getting meaner. Not louder, not explosive. Mean in that precise, quiet way that's meant to remind you where you stand. It started with comments disguised as jokes. "Oh wow," she said one night while watching TV, eyes flicking to my laptop. "Still working? Must be nice pretending you're important." I didn't look up. Deadlines are deadlines. She snorted. "Sure. Just don't forget who you are when this little productivity phase ends." That phrase, "who you are," used to mess with my head. Like my identity was something fragile she had to keep in check. She hated that it wasn't working anymore. A week later, we went to a small get-together with her friends. The kind where people pretend not to compare lives while doing exactly that. One of her friends asked what I'd been up to lately. Before I could answer, my girlfriend cut in. "He's been really into work," she said, rolling her eyes. Like it's his whole personality now. Her friends laughed politely. I smiled and took a sip of my drink. Inside, Something locked into place. On the drive home, she went off. You embarrassed me back there. I glanced at her. By existing? No, she snapped. By acting like you're suddenly going somewhere. Don't get ahead of yourself. That one was new. I pulled into the parking lot and turned off the engine. The silence stretched. You know, she continued, voice sharp. Confidence looks bad on you. It doesn't suit you. I nodded slowly. Good to know. She frowned. Why are you being weird? I'm not, I said. I'm listening. That shut her up. Later that night, while she slept, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a notebook beside it. I wrote goals, numbers, timelines, things I'd never allowed myself to plan because she'd always laughed at ambition that wasn't hers. I didn't hate her. I didn't want revenge. I just stopped needing her approval, and that scared her more than any argument ever could. By the second month, she stopped hiding her contempt. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten to leave. She did something worse. She started acting like I was already beneath her. If I came home late, she'd say, must be nice playing businessman while I actually have a life. If I dressed better for work, she'd smirk and ask, who are you trying to impress? One night, while folding laundry, she held up one of my shirts like it offended her personally. You know, she said, I always thought I'd end up with someone bigger, more impressive. Sometimes I feel like I wasted my prime years. I kept folding socks. She waited for a reaction. When none came, she added, sharper. Does that not bother you? I looked at her and said calmly, you already told me you regret choosing me. This is just details. Her mouth opened, then closed. You're impossible lately, she snapped. You used to care. I did care. That was the problem. What she didn't know was that every extra hour I worked was compounding. My boss noticed. Then his boss noticed. I was being trusted with things I'd never been trusted with before. Projects, decisions, money. Meanwhile, at home, she complained nonstop. You're boring now. You never take me anywhere. You're obsessed with work because you're insecure. The irony almost made me laugh. One night she accused me outright. You think you're better than me now, don't you? I shook my head. No, I just stopped believing I'm worse. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. That was when she started picking fights over nothing. Dishes, tone, timing, anything to get a reaction. Anything to pull me back into the old dynamic where she mattered more. But I was already gone in ways she couldn't touch. I started moving money into a separate account. Started making plans that didn't include her calendar. Started imagining a future that didn't feel small. She still thought she had the upper hand. She had no idea she was already losing access to the version of me she controlled. And once that version is gone, it never comes back. The third month was when she started sensing she was losing control. Not consciously. Not intelligently, just that gut feeling people get when the dynamic they rely on starts slipping. She began testing me. If you really cared, she said one night, arms crossed, you wouldn't work so late. I didn't look up from my laptop. I do care. About my future. She laughed, sharp and dismissive. Your future? With what exactly? You're acting like you're about to become someone. That was her favorite insult. Someone. As if I was currently nobody. She started accusing me of things out of nowhere. You're cheating, aren't you? You're hiding money. You think you're too good for me now. Projection wrapped in paranoia. I stayed calm. That made her angrier than yelling ever could. One Friday night, she snapped. We were supposed to go out with her friends. I canceled last minute because I had a deadline. You always choose work over me, she said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I don't even recognize you anymore. I met her eyes. That might be a good thing. She went quiet, then cruel. Just don't forget, she said slowly. Without me, you'd still be invisible. That one stayed with me. Not because it hurt, but because it clarified everything. That weekend, I didn't go out. I didn't apologize. I didn't explain. I worked. I planned. I finished a proposal that would change my career trajectory entirely. Monday morning, my boss called me into his office. By Friday, I had a new title. A raise she would have bragged about if it belonged to her. Stock options. Responsibility. Momentum. I didn't tell her. That night, she complained about money like always. About how she deserved more. About how her life felt stuck. I listened quietly, realizing she had no idea she was talking to someone who had already moved on. She thought I was neglecting her. In reality, I was outgrowing her. And she still believed she was the one doing the choosing. The promotion became official 2 weeks later. New role. Bigger scope. Real money. The kind of step that quietly rewrites the trajectory of your life if you don't screw it up. I still didn't tell her. Not out of spite. Out of instinct. Something in me knew the moment I said it out loud, she'd either belittle it, take credit for it, or start planning how it benefited her. I wasn't ready to hand that over. She noticed the changes anyway. The earlier mornings. The later nights. The way I dressed better without asking her opinion. The way I stopped reacting when she tried to provoke me. "You're being secretive," she accused one night, sitting on the couch with her arms folded. "What are you hiding?" I thought about the truth and decided she hadn't earned it. "Nothing important," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "Wow. So now I'm not important?" I shrugged. "You said it first. Months ago." She stared at me like she'd just been slapped. I was joking. "No," I said calmly. "You were honest." That's when she started getting desperate. Suddenly, she wanted date nights again. Suddenly, she wanted reassurance. Suddenly, she'd pick fights and then cry when they didn't work. One night, she snapped completely. "You think you're going to leave me," she said. Not a question, an accusation. "Don't forget, I was with you before any of this." I looked at her and realized something strange. She was scared, not of losing me emotionally, of losing access. "I'm not going anywhere," I said truthfully. She relaxed instantly. What she didn't know was that staying and belonging were no longer the same thing. Over the next few weeks, I quietly prepared, updated my resume, built savings, took meetings she never knew about. I didn't pack a bag. I packed a future. And the more secure I became, the more unbearable I was to her. Because confidence without permission is threatening to someone who survives on control. She still thought she was the prize. She had no idea she was about to be left behind by a version of me she helped create and would never benefit from. The breakup itself was anticlimactic. No shouting, no tears, just irritation on her side and relief on mine. It happened on a Thursday night. She was complaining about how her life felt stagnant, how she deserved more, how nothing exciting ever happened anymore. I was half listening, half responding to an email on my phone. She finally snapped. "Are you even present?" she barked. "Or are you too busy pretending you're important?" I looked up at her and realized I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just done. "I think we should break up," I said. She blinked. Once, twice, then laughed. "Oh my God," she said, shaking her head. "You're doing this now? Because you're stressed at work?" "No," I said. "Because you regret choosing me. I finally agree with you." Her smile vanished. "You don't mean that," she said sharply. "You wouldn't survive without me." That line would have crushed me once. Now it just sounded outdated. "I already am," I replied. She got nasty fast. "You think anyone better is going to want you? You're average at best. You'll come crawling back when this phase ends." I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just stood up, grabbed my jacket, and said, "I'll move my stuff out this weekend." She scoffed. "Good luck." The next morning, she texted like nothing happened. "Can you still cover rent this month?" That told me everything. I moved out quietly. No speeches. No social media posts. Just boxes, trips to storage, and a new apartment closer to work. Smaller, but mine. Weeks passed. Then months. I worked relentlessly. Focused. Clear. The kind of progress that only happens when no one is draining you daily. New role. Bigger income. New circle. New energy. And then, one night, my phone rang. Her name. I answered out of curiosity, not emotion. She was crying. "I didn't think you'd actually be okay without me," she sobbed. I looked across the table at the woman sitting with me, smart, warm, supportive, laughing softly at something on her phone. "I am," I said quietly. And for the first time, I meant it. After that call, I didn't hear from her for a while. Life got quiet. In a good way. I settled into a rhythm I didn't know I was capable of before. Early mornings. Long workdays. Evenings that didn't feel tense or heavy. My career accelerated fast once nothing was holding me back. The proposal I'd worked on got approved. Then expanded. Then funded. I was suddenly in rooms I'd never been invited to before, talking about numbers that used to scare me. I moved into a better place. Nothing flashy, just clean, calm, intentional. For the first time, my home felt like a recharge instead of a battleground. And yeah, I met someone. Not right away. I wasn't looking. That was the point. She came into my life slowly, naturally. No comparisons. No tests. No comments about how I should be more. She asked about my work and actually listened. She celebrated my wins without trying to attach herself to them. She never once made me feel like I had to earn basic respect. That contrast was jarring. A few weeks later, my ex called again. I didn't answer. She texted instead. "I heard you're doing really well." Funny how that happened after we broke up. There it was. The implication. I didn't reply. She sent another message the next day. I always believed in you, you know. That one made me laugh out loud. Belief doesn't sound like regret. Belief doesn't sound like settling. Belief doesn't ask, why did I choose you? I blocked her number after that. Not out of anger. Out of closure. Some people don't get access to the finished version when all they did was doubt the draft. Months passed. My life kept expanding. New responsibilities. New confidence. New peace. Then one evening, as I sat across from my new girlfriend, watching the city lights reflect off the window, my phone buzzed from an unknown number. A voicemail. It was her, crying harder than before. I messed up, she said through sobs. I didn't think you'd actually become this. Please just talk to me. I didn't call back. Because the future she was hearing about, I was already living in it. And she wasn't part of the picture anymore. I found out how bad things had gotten for her through someone else. A mutual friend ran into me at a bar after work. We talked for a bit, caught up, did the polite life update thing. Then he hesitated before saying, "Hey, I don't know if I should tell you this, but she's not doing great." I shrugged. I figured. Apparently, after I moved out, things unraveled fast. She couldn't afford her place on her own. Had to downsize. Then move again. Her job situation wasn't stable, and without someone covering the gaps, everything felt heavier. According to him, she talked about me constantly. About how I changed. About how I abandoned her, right when I started doing well. That part made me laugh. It's funny how growth looks like betrayal to people who benefited from your stagnation. A few nights later, she called again from another new number. I almost didn't answer. Curiosity got the better of me. She was crying immediately. "I don't understand," she said between sobs. "You weren't supposed to win like this. You were supposed to need me." There it was. The most honest thing she'd ever said to me. "I never needed you," I replied quietly. "I just thought I did." She begged then. Not subtly. Not gracefully. She talked about memories, inside jokes, how no one knew her like I did. How she could do things differently now. I looked across the room at my new girlfriend curled up on the couch, reading, completely at ease in my presence. No tension. No power games. Just peace. "I believe you could be different," I said. "I just don't need to be there to see it." That broke her. She accused me of showing off. Of rubbing my success in her face. Of replacing her too fast. I didn't defend myself. Because the truth was simple. I didn't replace her. I replaced the version of myself that thought love had to hurt. She hung up on me. This time, I blocked every number. Some doors don't need closure. They just need to stay closed. The last time I heard her voice wasn't through my phone. It was at a coffee shop near my office, months after everything ended. I was there with my new girlfriend, grabbing drinks before heading out for a weekend trip. We were laughing about something small and stupid when I felt that familiar prickle, the sense of being watched. I looked up and there she was, standing in line. Same posture, same face, but none of the certainty she used to wear so easily. When our eyes met, she froze like she'd been caught somewhere she didn't belong. She walked over anyway. "Wow," she said, forcing a smile. "You look different." I smiled back. "Yeah, life's been good." Her eyes flicked to the woman beside me. My girlfriend didn't tense, didn't compete, just smiled politely and kept sipping her coffee. That alone said everything. My ex swallowed. "I didn't think you'd actually move on like this." I almost laughed, not out loud, but internally. Because for so long, she thought I existed in relation to her. That my progress was hypothetical without her approval. "I didn't move on like this," I said calmly. "I moved on from you." She flinched. There was a long pause before she asked the question she'd been circling for months. "Do you ever think, if I hadn't said those things, we'd still be together?" I thought about the kitchen. Her voice. "Every time I look at you, I wonder why I chose you." "No," I said honestly. "Because you didn't say them once. You believed them." She nodded slowly, tears welling up but never falling. For the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't minimize. She didn't insult. She just whispered, "I didn't think you'd become this without me." I met her eyes. Neither did I. We said goodbye. Simple. Final. As we walked out, my girlfriend slipped her hand into mine, warm and steady. No doubts. No tests. No conditions. And I realized something important. Some people are only meant to know the version of you that hasn't figured things out yet. The moment you do, they lose access, forever. Bye-bye.